Hello, I'm Antoinette, the owner of Pixel This, and welcome to Chick Chat and Chill. Um, I own a full service design firm where we help some of the biggest brands, but we also like to help small businesses find their voice too. So before we start today's episode, I'm going to introduce Laura, my co host.
Hi, I'm Laura Fickett. I own Fickett Financial Education and Business Coaching, where I love to help people make more money, manage it better, retain it to build their wealth. How do I do that? People ask me all the time. If you increase your education, you learn all new tips and tricks and all kinds of different things that you didn't know before, and all of those little things add up to big gains. So call me for a free consultation. Go onto my website and set one up, and we can figure out how to make you more wealthy so that you can participate in God's prosperity plan. Today, we're going to talk about not God's plan. We're going to talk about conspiracy theories. So some of them are, I don't know, I don't think they're conspiracies anymore. I think they're actually proven theories. And so, but there's so many out there. And I think the overarching theme, my husband and I have these discussions all the time, is to make people not believe anything anymore. So we're becoming a society where you can't believe anything anymore. You see a video and it could be AI generated. I watched one the other day and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this old lady's saying this stuff. And she wasn't. It was all AI generated. She totally fooled me. And so I think it's the biggest gaslighting that's ever happened in the history of the world, is that we're all being gaslit.
Yeah.
It's crazy. If you don't know what gaslighting is, look it up or talk to a teenager. But I think we're all being gaslit.
Yeah.
Like, we're all thinking that what we believed, what we learned in history, what we knew is not true anymore, with the Mandela effect. And the fruit of the loom doesn't have a cornucopia, never did, and all kinds of different things. And it's making us all doubt every single thing. And when that happens, when you can't trust anything, then whoever they are, the people that want to be God, can put out anything and everything right in front of your face, and you don't even bat an eye. You just keep on going on in your sedentary life. It's crazy.
Yeah.
How much stuff is going on right now.
Yeah. No, and I mean, hopefully we'll get into like some of the ones that I think started off as conspiracy, but now, I think we could accept they're true. And
95%. No, just kidding.
no, and then other stuff that, maybe mention a conspiracy theory that just fizzled out or something like that. But I think the Mandela effect was a great one. I was hoping you'd bring that up. Laura's actually the first one that brought this up to me, and I think it was the first time I ever heard of it. So I think, Laura, you should really go more into what this is and how it was created. But the name itself, I think, is phenomenal. Like Nelson Mandela. If you're like me, you saw his funeral, like he died, and then, and then several years later, he was president. So clearly it got you rethinking your, what you thought was true or not. Yeah. So Laura, take it away.
You know what? That happens a lot, like where you think somebody has died, and one of the conspiracy theories around that is that they switch people. They actually kill people off, and they put new people in their place. And I remember there was a famous rap artist, which many of you probably have heard this, and he said, if I disappear for a couple of days and I come back and I don't look exactly right, just know that they killed me. And it's totally like it's out there. You see some people that you're like, wow, they didn't look like that before. And they supposedly haven't had any kind of surgery. And so why do they look like that now? What happened in their life? Like, the new one in 2025 is like Zac Efron. People are all about him. Like, why does he look the way he does now? But the Mandela effect.
But do you remember the Hillary Clinton thing when she was running? How she had
Yes.
this one episode where she like collapsed in a car, and then somebody comes out of her daughter's apartment, clearly not her, but posing as her, and they just kind of wipe that one off the rug when everyone was like, no, that's not Hillary
Sweep,
Clinton.
sweep, 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 sweep.
Yeah.
But there's so much information being thrown at you. 2 weeks later, you even forget that happened.
Yeah.
Now Antoinette said it, and you're like, oh, yes. But until she said it, you didn't remember it. Or maybe now you're going to look it up because you're like, wow, I didn't know
Yeah.
that happened. But the Mandela effect is really weird because a lot of things from our childhood, like the 60s, 70s, whatever, things that a lot of the generation that I'm a part of grew up with, they're saying it didn't exist. Like the Fruit of the Loom, I specifically remember it having a cornucopia with the fruit coming out. And now they're saying, like, no, the Fruit of the Loom Corporation has said we never had a logo like that. It's always just been the fruit. There's been no cornucopia. And I'm thinking to myself, like, the only reason I think we did cornucopias in elementary school was because of your logo. Hello. But and then like it's popular stuff too, like the Bernstein Bears. Okay, so now like it's all over the news that now it's the Bernstein Bears. Like I remember the song, it goes through my head, and it wasn't like the Bernstein Bear, like it wasn't like Stain, like or Oscar Mayer hot dogs. It was always Oscar Mayer. It was always Oscar
Okay.
Mayer.
Yeah.
I'm an Oscar
Oscar
Mayer
Mayer
wiener.
wiener. I did that for a talent show because that's the extent of my singing ability.
Well, apparently you did it wrong. Yes, it's Oscar Mayer. So people talk about the monocle on the Monopoly guy, and then they try and say, "Oh no, no, no! You were thinking of Mr. Peanut. You were thinking of him, and you're confusing him with the Monopoly." I'm like, we used to play Monopoly all the time because we didn't have a lot of video games, or we had like a 19-inch one television with the seven of us in our household. Like we didn't play video games. We played Monopoly. And I remember that he had, like, I remember what he looked like. And so there's all kinds of things. And it's gaslighting. It makes you doubt, like, the thoughts in your head. Like, well, maybe I misremember. But how can so many people misremember?
Yeah.
That's not a conspiracy theory. Something is going on where they're trying to rewrite history and they're trying to make people doubt literally everything. So
Yeah.
that I couldn't believe when you hadn't heard of it. I was like, wow, this is going to be a rabbit hole for her and such a time waster. But I'm so glad I could share that with you.
No, but it's so true because I see that with my mom because she's older and my dad just died and she got sick, so she was dehydrated and she was having all these problems. So she just wasn't with it. I mean, she really wasn't. And then she would say things or do things, and I see it when I tell her, like, no, mom, that's not how it was, and I'll explain it, or she's confused about something. And I see the process of her where now she's almost doubting every time she speaks up, like, is this true? Have I said this? Is this actually happened? And I honestly think that's kind of the thought. It's an actual thing. You know, if you're proved with something that you just thought as fact your entire life. I mean, this isn't something you saw once. You've seen it 10 years straight, and that or Fruit of the Loom, like who hasn't seen the Fruit of the Loom logo?
I know.
I mean, I'm a graphic designer. I know logos. It had a cornucopia.
It's crazy, but the thing is that if you think about it, if you amass a ton of money, I'm in the financial field. I always tell people, follow the money and find the problems, right? You amass such ginormous amounts of wealth, then wealth no longer provides excitement for you. So what do you want if you've conquered wealth?
I guess
You
mess
want
with people's heads.
you want power. You want power and control. Power and control. And these people don't believe in God, and they want to be God. They want to manipulate the people. They want to manipulate the population. They want to manipulate the weather, which is another conspiracy theory. Like you look at old Polaroids. If you're young, look up what a Polaroid is. But you look at those and people took pictures in the sky. There were not lines throughout the sky all over the place. When I was younger, no lines throughout the sky. I don't ever remember looking up and being like, oh, that cloud looks like a train track just right across the sky. I used to look up because we didn't have a lot of stuff, right? So I used to lay in the grass up north, not down south where there's red ants. And
Or the grass feels like razor blades down here.
but I used to lay in the grass and look up at the sky and be like, oh, that looks like a dinosaur and that looks like an elephant. And never once did I say, oh, that looks like the background of my school photo with all the lines.
Yeah, no.
Never. And in old pictures, not there. So now they're like, oh, they're not chemtrails. That's just a byproduct of the planes and whatever. Oh, but a clear sky goes from like clear to completely cloudy and then raining, but you didn't do anything to manipulate the weather. Well, now we're seeing in 2025 that they are manipulating the weather. And so that conspiracy theory it's not a conspiracy theory anymore.
No.
What do you call it? It's a factual thing. But so many of those things have come out that now something else comes out and people are just like, ugh, they're desensitized. That's the word I was thinking of. Desensitized. All of this information has desensitized us to the point where right now Godzilla could rip through my town. They would tell me that it was like a movie production gone wild, and I'd be like, oh, okay, let me go to the Publix, get some food.
Well, I think that's what it is. And people just, I don't know. But I think one of my, I wouldn't say favorite, but I think it's a huge conspiracy theory is 9/11. And this hits me close because when 9/11 happened, I was living in Connecticut and my brother was actually working in the Twin Towers. So as soon as I got the news, I immediately called my mom and I was like, "Oh, by the way, is Carl working in the Twin Towers today?" And she's like, "No, I think they like yanked him out of there for some weird." So he basically, now if you know New York City, nothing gets done if it's not union labor. And I'm not going to say mafia, but you could.
She just did. She like totally just did. But
No,
we're just gonna
I never
pretend
said that. The Mandela.
she's not gonna say organized crime. She's
No,
not.
but there's it basically, if you're not a union, like my brother would tell me he was in the electrical union. So if a non-union truck would try to get work, the guy didn't leave with four tires. He wasn't able to like leave, with it just didn't get done. So he was working in the Twin Towers, and then all of a sudden, before the whole explosion or the plane crash, he was yanked
you did
out.
it right the first time.
Yeah, exactly. Talk about so he got yanked out, and everyone else was in there. All of a sudden, these electricians were all working in the elevator shafts. Now, those buildings were specifically designed to withstand a plane crashing through them. I mean, that was the whole gist of their
Well, so many
structural.
engineers have come out and talked about this very
Yeah.
thing. It's
And
crazy.
yeah, and then when they came down, it was obviously looked like a engineered takedown of a building where it collapses in on itself, and then the building that never got hit by a plane that comes
Building
down.
7.
Yeah, and if you notice, like after that, all of a sudden, like Enron goes away, like that all this stuff that was all in the news prior, just poof, it's gone.
Well, no more evidence.
No,
It was all in that building.
it was all in 7. Yeah.
Such a coincidence.
And then
It's crazy.
the owners upped their insurance of the building. I forgot it was it was millions, but then they upped it to billions, right before the attack as well.
And I think the thing is that the general population wants to believe that people are good. We do. We want to believe that people are good and the government has our best interests at heart. And we want to have that faith. But at the same time, you have to use a little bit of common sense and look at certain things and use your own discernment. Like, I think part of the reason is they're trying to make you doubt yourself, make you doubt your intuition, make you doubt like your own thoughts. But if you see buildings years ago can withstand plane crashes, and I think the Empire State Building had a plane crash into it. So don't quote me on this because like I'm bad with history, but that building should have never collapsed. There's been so many engineers far smarter than I in structural engineering that have come to say like there's just no way. And so you have to at some point like open up your eyes and say, wow, like why would they do that? And I'm never going to know the complete answer to why they would do these things. Why would they do chemtrails? And I'm not traveling in that circle. But you have to realize that these things are going on. And my husband is always like, I just want to make you aware. I just want to make you aware. And yeah, just don't make me aware at 11 o'clock before I have to go to bed because like, then I'm not going to sleep. Okay.
But I think the thing is also like when you have these conspiracy theories, especially in today's day and age where they have videos and everyone has a smartphone and all these things people research and dig up this minutia, it's going to come out anyway. You know what I mean? So the fact that there's a cover up or you're being dishonest about it just makes you not trust the government or people in charge or whatever. And it's this distrust, which it's not helping the country as a whole. You know, I would love to, like, even like if I screw up or if anybody screws up, the best thing you could do is just take ownership.
Hmm.
Just say, hey, we messed up. Or.
If you're listening and you're one of those people that wants to manipulate and control the population and really strives for power and doesn't care about human lives, I'm sure you're going to take Antoinette's advice. I'm positive.
No, but at some point
Oh, they're probably listening.
but I think it's at some point even
Higher security detail.
there is like a power shift. So even if all the people that were in charge and they were the ones hiding the data, at some point you would think they die off or there's a different power. It should come out at some point, is what I'm saying.
But even when it does, even when the information does come out, like these architects come out and they say, there's no way, people don't believe it.
No.
So the information does come out. People just don't believe it.
But even like the Epstein files, or like that he killed himself. They're still holding on to that he killed himself.
Yeah, people but even when the truth comes out, they don't believe it. So then I'm going to go on to my own personal theory is that, as a Christian, I know that Jesus is coming. And so when people talk to me about like pre-planning my funeral arrangements, I'm like, I'm not going to die. I'm going to be raptured. I'm not going to die. I'm going to be raptured. That's what I tell people all the time. But if you want to, that this is happening. Let's say that you're of the evil persuasion and you also know that Jesus is coming. And you want the population to not believe anything. So when Jesus does get here, you want the population to not believe it's him. You have to lay the groundwork. You have to make people question themselves. You have to make people, you have to gaslight. You have to get the population to be like, to the point where, Jesus could be sitting next to you and telling you, and you'd be like, nah, that's not true. Like, forget it.
Yeah.
So I think that part of me believes that all these conspiracy theories, some of them aren't conspiracy theories. We've already talked about the vaccine and in another episode. And, but part of me thinks the overall arching theory is that these people want to be God. They want to control the population. They know God loves his people. And so they want to terminate that. And they also want to somehow ruin Jesus coming the second time. But it's not going to happen. I mean, God controls everything. He created everything.
Yeah.
And I think so he's in charge of everything.
I think with what you're saying, it almost ties into our last topic a little of the whole growing apathy of if you have people that aren't God-centric, they're easier to control and manipulate over things like money or fame or whatever because they're all self-serving. So again, with these conspiracy theories, they're all, trying to, whatever, grow money, wealth. I mean, like you said, follow the money. All these things have some sort of basis in them.
And you see some of these people that are famous or they're in power and now their children, this is another conspiracy theory, that their children are becoming a different gender or, becoming homosexual or any of that kind of stuff. And God wants, one of the things he says is go and populate the earth. It's throughout the Bible that, you're supposed to have children, populate the earth, that kind of stuff. So you're seeing a growing trend of not populating the earth. People are having less children. There's vaccines that are making people sterile. It's becoming more and more hard for people to get pregnant. There's people that are changing their genders, not wanting to pair up with the opposite gender. That's not going to change. A male and a female have to get together in order to populate the earth. As far as I know, there's nothing new out there to populate the earth. And if you're younger, talk to your parents about the birds and the bees. But so if you think about it, all of these conspiracies that come out, all these things that are happening, I think they all tie back to trying to hurt God, trying to somehow hurt him and his people and his design and what he wants. Because every single thing does tie back. You don't want, people to be married anymore. And so now you create all this all these dating sites, all this technology where people can cheat with somebody like a million miles away and all kinds of other stuff. And so now marriage is broken up. You don't want people to populate the earth anymore. Okay, well, we'll make them sterile. We'll make them like the same sex and not want to have children and all kinds of things. So a lot of these conspiracy theories, you think like, why would they do this? I personally just think the overarching theme is, if you've read the Bible, you can tie it back to there. What God wants, they don't want.
Yeah.
And so they attack the opposite.
And I think it's the love of money. I mean, almost everything has some kind of financial benefit.
Yeah, follow the money.
And control. It's money and control, because in the end, if you have all the money and all the control, you can do anything you want.
Well, you think you can do anything you want. That's the key.
That's the dangerous.
That's the key.
So I'm actually curious, what do you think about, have you ever heard the whole Da Vinci Code conspiracy with Jesus and the bloodline and all that?
Yes, but you can get into it because...
Okay, so there's another conspiracy where Jesus married, Mary Magdalene, and they had a child, and supposedly in the, painting of the Last Supper, you actually see, Mary, there's a woman there behind Jesus, and there's supposedly a bloodline, and there's this secret society of knights of Templar that are like hiding this whole bloodline and all this stuff. I mean, that's basically the conspiracy. So there's a couple books on it. The Da Vinci Code was a movie on it. That was probably the most popular.
But I think anything that goes against the Bible is just, that's where the conspiracies come from. It's all these things that want to go against God's plan and God's design and what God has said and God's word and everything like that. It all ties back. And like you talk about follow the money. Well, these people have plenty of money, but they want the power and they want to be like God. So it's not a new concept, right? I mean, way back in Genesis, Adam and Eve, the reason why Eve even ate the apple from the tree of, she wanted to be like God. Like she talked with the serpent and he tempted her. Oh, well, you can be like God if you do this. And so it's not such a weird thought process that people that have a ton of money and power want to be like God, because you've conquered, like I said, you've conquered money, you've conquered success as society says it. So what's the next thing to conquer? The world.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I don't know who these people are, and hopefully they don't know who I
am. She'll be in a mask from now.
Yeah, won't be wearing the face saver.
How about, I have a conspiracy theory that comes to mind. Can you name one that actually just fell apart, that never came true, and it was a big ordeal?
Oh, gosh. The ones that never came true, like a lot of them have come true.
You want me to name one that comes to? So
yeah,
one that I'm thinking of is the QAnon, which was huge back, was it like 4 years ago? I don't know, 8 years ago, whatever. It was this guy who supposedly was in the government, and he was writing these things under Q, and it started developing into this whole underground movement where Trump was going to come and do all these massive things and free all these, child sex slaves and all this stuff. And that JFK Jr. was actually still alive, that he staged his death, and he's and he's working with.
And you think this fizzled out?
Well, the whole thing was.
We're going to have comments. If you think that's fizzled out, you're wrong.
I mean, it still might be a movement and under, going on, but the guy they were pretending was JFK was not. If he is, it's not this guy. They're like different heights, it's not the same face. But the whole thing that was supposed to come in fruition when supposedly the last election went to Joe Biden, Trump was going to come in with this military, that never came to
happened.
So that was a whole QAnon movement that, they had this whole thing happening, and it was going to be, that never came out. I mean, whether it's still a active movement and have other theories, that's the big one in my head that we're all waiting. Like, is it going to happen? Is it going to happen?
For 4 years.
It just never happened.
Joe Biden scratch his mask off.
But that to me was a pretty big one that just never really amounted to anything.
Well, Y2K never.
Oh, that was
matriculated.
another one.
Y2K never
Yeah.
matriculated. That was a big one that never matriculated. But here's the thing: is that we don't know what's going on behind the scenes, right? So maybe it was going to happen and then it didn't. Kind of like, I joke with my kids, like, I bought you something for Christmas, but then you were really bad, so I returned it. And so you never
That's
know
true.
the presents that you never got.
That's true.
So
So
maybe it
could have been true at the time.
it was true, and somebody kiboshed it
Yeah.
or put an end to it. The other thing that people talk about, like we talked about the Mandela effect, but the Simpsons, like how they predict
They
all
predict
kinds
a
of
lot.
things.
Yeah.
And people think they're time travelers. What if they're just in control of what's going to happen? So somebody told me a long time ago in the fashion industry, and I'm not a fashionista by any means, but they're picking out in 2025, they're picking out the colors that people are going to be wearing and that are going to be fashionable in 2030. So 5 years from now, they're already planning. So you think like, oh, they just came out with bell bottoms. Like, no, obviously that's a throwback. But 5 years ago, they were planning this for us today. So the Simpsons could be planning what's going to be happening in 5 years or 10 years or whatever. So it's not that much of a conspiracy theory. It's just that people can't plan like they're living paycheck to paycheck. They can't plan out a month. But these people are planning out years, decades. I think China has like a 300-year plan or something.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
But I think that's the
The conspiracy theory I have a really hard time with, that my husband and I disagree on, is that he thinks that some Hollywood actresses are actors. And he says, oh, you can see like their Adam's apple, or where they tried to have surgery for the Adam's apple, or
Well,
look
they
at
had
their
Michelle
hands, or
Obama,
look at
that
the.
it's Michael Obama.
Oh, that one I can believe.
Especially you see the Oprah dance, and there's a whole lot of
that one I can believe. But he believes that there's all kinds of reasons for it. But that's the one we have. Have you heard that?
No,
No. Oh my gosh! Now I'm gonna have to talk to her about this, and she's gonna
Okay.
look at some of these actresses, and she's gonna be like, "Well, they kind of do look like men." He might be right.
I heard one was like the I don't know if I should name names, but the Jamie Lee Curtis, there was a whole thing where she was a hermaphrodite, where her parents had to choose what gender and then picked female, and I don't know. Like again, it was a silly, or the Chex kid died with, he put pop rocks in his mouth and he drank a soda and he died because they all
There's
exploded.
just so many. There's just so many.
Yeah,
In
there's a lot.
2025, there's just so many.
Yeah.
And so back to, look, we're going to have to close things out here soon, but back to what I said before is I think you follow the money, you find it. Everything ties back to the Bible. It's the opposite of what God wants is
Yeah.
why these things are happening. God controls the earth. God controls the weather. So they want to try and control the weather. Just look at the ties there. Open your eyes to that. And ultimately, like, have a little bit of discernment in your life, because if somebody tells you 100 lies in a day and one truth, unfortunately, you have to try and figure out what the truth is.
Yeah.
But that's what's happening. The media and everything is coming at us at 1,000 miles an hour, and everything is so untrue that they're making us not believe anything anymore. And I think it's a setup
Yeah.
for when Jesus comes back, that we're not going to believe
It
that
makes
Jesus
sense.
is actually Jesus.
It makes sense. And a good segue into our next week's topic is going to be don't sweat the small stuff. So, in the scheme of things, I mean, I'm not saying that some of these conspiracy theories are huge, but, whether or not Paul McCartney is the actual true McCarthy or was replaced, it doesn't really affect my life a whole lot.
Or realistically, the fact that your neighbor threw a palm frond over the fence,
Yeah.
like,
It's
is very small peanuts to get upset about when there's people controlling the weather and toxifying your food and feeding you BS information.
Yeah.
Okay? Right? That palm frond, don't get upset about
Yeah.
it. Like, not important. It's detracting from any joy that you could possibly be having.
Yeah. And I remember I was at
People up north are probably like, what's a palm frond?
But I remember I was actually involved in this like court proceeding, and it was like a big deal. And I was like sitting there laughing with, some people I met during the court. And this lawyer turns around and he goes, do you realize the gravity of these situations? He's like, and I said, I have a motto. I don't sweat the big stuff.
That's not the topic for next week, because
No.
don't sweat the small
but,
stuff.
But it's something that I'm a big believer in not worrying about things you have no control over. And hopefully next week we could shed some light on how to actually
Yeah.
do that and put pedal to the metal. And
Until then, though,
Yes.
we'll talk about that next week, and hopefully we'll give you some tips and tricks, and we'll make you laugh a little bit when we talk about not sweating the small stuff. But until then, never stop learning.
never stop laughing. See you soon.